All right, let's talk group policy. If you're prepping for a networking or security exam, you know these questions are coming. So today, we are going to nail down the core rules of group policy in Active Directory. We'll use a super clear visual guide that's going to help you crush those questions.
So, first things first, what exactly is a group policy object, or GPO? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a central rulebook. It's the set of commands for all the users and computers on your Windows network, and it's how admins keep everything consistent and locked down.
Here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the absolute fundamental, the order things get applied. Then we'll look at the exceptions that let you bend the rules. After that, we'll dig into what gets applied and when. And finally, we'll wrap up with the command line tools you absolutely have to know.
Okay, let's dive right in. The single most critical concept you need to master in group policy is the processing order. Seriously, everything else we talk about is built on this foundation.
Think of policy application like a waterfall. It flows down in a very strict, very predictable sequence. It always starts at the bottom with the local machine's own policy. Then it moves up to the physical site, then the entire domain, and the very last stop is the organizational unit, or OU. That's the container the user or computer actually lives in.
This order is so important, you've got to commit this mnemonic to memory. LSDOU, local, site, domain, OU. Seriously, burn it into your brain. It is the key to figuring out which settings are actually going to stick. Okay, so what happens when two different policies are fighting over the same setting? The rule is dead simple. The last one that gets applied wins. That's it. Since the OU is the last step in our waterfall, it has the final say. It's closest to the object, so it wins.
Let's make this real. Imagine your main domain policy says every desktop wallpaper is blue. But then, a more specific policy, just for the marketing OU, says, nope, our wallpaper is green. Well, for every user in that marketing OU, their wallpaper is going to be green. Why? Because the OU policy was processed last, and it just overwrote the domain setting. Simple.
All right, so now we get the standard flow. But you know there are always exceptions, right? Let's look at the two big ways an administrator can totally change this flow. And you're going to want to pay close attention, because this stuff is prime exam material.
So, by default, GPOs are inherited. It's a core concept. Settings you apply higher up, say at the domain level, just naturally trickle down to all the child OUs inside of it. This is fantastic for setting a consistent baseline of rules for everyone in the organization.
But what if you don't want those settings for a specific group? Maybe your developers need a totally different environment. Well, an admin can go to that OU and just flip a switch called block inheritance. Think of it exactly like building a dam in our waterfall. It just stops all those policies from the site and domain from flowing down any further.
So we built a dam. But what if there's a policy that is absolutely non-negotiable? Maybe it's a critical security setting that must apply to everyone, no excuses. That's when you use enforced. An enforced GPO link is basically an unstoppable force. It just smashes right through that block inheritance dam like it's not even there.
And that brings us to the unbreakable rule. You have to remember this. An enforced GPO link always, and I mean always, overrides a block inheritance setting. If they go head-to-head in a fight, enforced wins every single time.
Okay, so we've covered how policies get applied. Now let's talk about what is being applied. Because every single GPO is really two policies in one, and they behave very differently. And you can see that clear separation here. On the left, you've got computer configuration. These settings get applied to the machine itself, the second it boots up. This is for big, system-wide stuff. Then on the right, you have user configuration. These settings get applied when the person logs in, and it controls their personal environment, desktop settings, mapped drives, you name it. The really cool part is that these user settings will follow them to any machine they log into on the network. And hey, here's another critical rule for you. What if a computer setting and a user setting are trying to do opposite things? Who wins that fight? The answer is always the computer. The machine's configuration takes precedence. It just overrides the user's setting. The machine's rules win. All right, final section. Let's look at two absolutely essential command line tools. Knowing all the rules is one thing, but these are the commands that let you see it all in action and figure out what's going on when things break. So, you just made a change to a GPO. You're not going to sit around and wait to see if it worked, right? No way! An admin can just run gp update/force on a machine, and it immediately pulls down and applies all the latest policy changes. It's basically a big refresh button for group policy.
And that's because if you don't force it, the change isn't instant. By default, computers just check in for new policies in the background, roughly every 90 minutes or so. And there's a little bit of a random delay so you don't have thousands of machines all hitting the server at the exact same time.
Now this command right here, this is your best friend for troubleshooting. When something isn't working, you run gpresult/r. It shows you exactly which GPOs are actually being applied to the computer and the user you're logged in as. It's the final result of that whole processing order. And it'll even tell you which policies got denied or filtered out. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, so let's put all of these rules together. We're going to look at one final summary diagram that shows the whole system at a glance. And there you have it. This pretty much illustrates the entire system. The standard flow is that LSTOU waterfall. If there's a conflict, the last GPO to get applied wins. And in the epic battle between a block inheritance stam and an enforced link, that unstoppable force of enforcement wins every single time.
So, we'll leave you with this question. Understanding these rules, it isn't just about passing an exam. This is the fundamental skill you need to diagnose and solve real-world network problems. The next time a policy isn't applying the way you expect, you'll know exactly what to do. Trace that LSTIU path, look for any blocks, check for enforcement, and then use your tools to solve it.